Thank you for joining us today at Homestead for Life. Today we are going to talk about preserving eggs. While it's really the wrong time of year to go over this, I did have a friend ask me the other day if I still had any fresh eggs. She was looking for some. I said, not a whole lot. She says, well, if it's not enough for you, never mind. And it got me thinking, we've got fresh eggs all year. There's a couple different ways to store fresh eggs so they remain fresh all year. So as we're getting into the winter, like it's starting to get now, we're losing hours of sunlight. I'm going to have fresh eggs all winter long. Here's how. So the two main ways that we use to preserve eggs are water glassing our eggs in hydrated lime and freeze drying them. Not everyone has a freeze dryer, so we're going to go over hydrating lime or the hydrated lime version first, and we'll get to freeze drying eggs in another video. So one of the big things to factor if you have a freeze dryer and you have the two options is how do you eat your eggs? I prefer mine scrambled, not prefer, that's the only kind of eggs I eat. I'll eat scrambled eggs, I'll eat omelets. You will not see me eating an over easy egg or sunny side up or anything where the yolk and the whites are separate. I want nothing to do with it. I don't want either of those pieces. It has to be scrambled. To freeze dry your eggs, for them to taste good at the end of it, it has to be scrambled. We found no other way. But for normal people that like eggs hard boiled, over easy, any of those other really gross egg ways, the water glassing method is the better method for you. So super easy, super cheap. You don't have to spend all that money on a freeze dryer. You just have to store them. So what do we need? We need tap water. Unless you're on city water, then you might want to get some bottled distilled water, and hydrated lime. This is from your garden store. Okay? You're not going to go and get your regular lime from the construction section. It's usually in the garden section. Make sure it says hydrated lime, not just lime. If you can't find that, you can get pickling lime. It's usually in the canning section at your local grocery store. And you just mix it with water. So for every quart of water, you're going to add 1 ounce by weight, not by volume, 1 ounce by weight of your hydrated lime to 1 quart of water. This is 2 quarts of water and 2 ounces of hydrated lime. And we're just going to mix it up. And try not to breathe it in. It doesn't smell fantastic. Not good for you to breathe too much of it in. But this little bit's not going to do any harm. It just doesn't smell good. So you're going to mix it until it's all dissolved as you can get it. And then we're going to pour it into our jar and then start putting our eggs in here. One of the important things to factor is these need to be farm fresh eggs, straight out of the chicken's butt. Do not wash them first. Do not use grocery store eggs. So the big difference between, there's so many differences between farm fresh eggs and grocery store eggs. But one of those differences is your grocery store eggs have been washed off. So there's a natural coating that is on all of your eggs straight from the chicken. They call it the bloom. Not sure why. I'm not a chicken scientist. Don't know. Don't care. But what the bloom does while it's intact and still there is sort of seals and protects the egg a little bit. So it keeps it from going bad so fast. So we want to make sure the bloom is intact. So brush off any dirt or feathers or anything, but we are not going to wash that egg before we lime it. Now, when you go to use these eggs, you're going to wash it off then. You're going to rinse it really well. And then just to be safe, because I'm paranoid about eggs, you're probably gonna water test it to make sure that the egg hasn't gone bad. Your eggs will last in here for at least a year, okay? 8 to 12 months with no difference. The yolk might get a little softer, a little less fluffy, might not be quite as tall, but you're not going to notice a difference in taste after a year. Some people say they store fine up to 2 years, but if you're rotating your eggs and you're actually using them, probably not going to get up to 2 years old on your water glass eggs unless you're just testing it for funsies, which if that's what you want to do, rock on. All right, so we are all mixed up here. There's still a little powder in the bottom. but it's dissolved pretty well. Nothing else seems to be dissolving for me. So we are going to pour this, hopefully in our container, hopefully not all over my counter, but it is what it is. We're going to do both. All right. Didn't dissolve quite all our lime. We are going to put it in there anyway. And then keep mixing it up. Just a little bit more, because it's going to dissolve into the water as it's sitting there too. You are going to notice, even if we sat here mixing this for hours, you're going to notice that it will start to separate and you'll get that little coating on the bottom of your lime there too. Right? So now we've got our egg jar. Now we need the eggs. Okay, so we've got 6 eggs today. And how we're going to do this, we're just going to carefully place them in there. We don't want to drop them. The lime water is going to thicken. Well, the hydrated lime is going to thicken the water. So it's not going to be the same buoyancy. But we're going to put them skinny side down so that the air pocket inside the egg goes to the top. I would suggest, if you have sensitive skin, wear gloves. If you deal with lime all day, every day, wear gloves. If you're hardly ever having your hands in lime, or you just don't care that much, then rock on. And can't fit my hand all the way down without overflowing the bucket. So, but the egg still, because it's thicker, right? It's thicker than your normal water. I'm not even hearing them hit the bottom. They're floating. Gently sliding down. Slowly overflowing my bucket. And this egg, let's see if it floats back up again. This one is floating back up again. It should mostly sink down. So I don't trust this egg. We're not going to use that egg. So we've got 5 eggs in here. Going to end up having to dump out some of this water. It's too full. I filled it up too much. Shame on me. But what we're going to do, as we have more eggs each day that we're not using, we're going to add to this until it's full. Right? And we're going to keep the lid on it in the meantime, because the most important thing is keeping this in a cool, dark place and making sure the water doesn't evaporate. Right? At no point should the water level be lower than your eggs. Okay? So the lid saves us from that, so we won't have to worry about it there. And that's all there is to water glassing eggs. Okay, it's been a few days, and we have topped off our little canister. It fit about 18 eggs in there, and we've got the lid screwed on. You will notice that the lime solution did kind of separate and filter down to the bottom. That's fine, because what the water can absorb, it will absorb. So it's still in there. The water can't evaporate out. So your eggs will be fine. This is normal.